Another one. See, here they come, look at them. Them buggers. More, look at them. More, look at this. See, it's unbelievable. Look how many could that be? I should have been counting. They're just flying rats, man. There's just too many. You know, I hate to say it, but hi folks. It's Saturday, the 10th of October 2020. And I wanted to show you this, and I wanted this just for future reference too. But yeah, I've wanted to get these trees on video in full flower, because it's spring now. We're about a bit over a month into spring, and these trees are in full flower. But we have never had a spring like this in the whole 20 years I've been here. This is really unusual, and it's really sad too, and I hope it's not going to be the way things are going, but I think it is actually. And these trees, as beautiful as they are, as you can see, like, look at them, particularly the tree on the left. It's just every year it drops nearly all of its leaves, and it's just absolutely covered in flowers. So there's very few leaves on it at all. And the tree to the right tends to have keep more leaves and not as many flowers, although they're both just very beautiful trees. And but these trees are not looking as exceptional as they usually do this time of year, because all those flowers, even though those flowers have been out for about 2 weeks now, yeah, I think it's about 2 weeks that they put out their major flush of flowers. And every day now they're still putting out a few flowers, but 99% of those flowers have been there 2 weeks. But that colour is usually far more electric, because those flowers are full of nectar. Every flower is just full of beads of nectar. Just super sweet. You can grab those flowers and just suck the nectar out yourself. And it's absolutely delicious. And because of that nectar, that colour orange is usually just far more spectacular. It's just electric. It just looks absolutely electric, especially with the blue background. And normally, most years, it takes about a month before the flowers start to look like this, where they've just sort of lost a lot of their appeal. It's still beautiful, but nowhere near as beautiful as when they're full of nectar. And so that's the first thing that's gone wrong here this year. And the next thing, at this time, like, it's 5 in the afternoon now, and normally in spring, like, you can hear in the background, hear the lorikeets. There's a few lorikeets around, and they're feeding on some of the flowers in the neighbouring parks. There's a park here, or there's a few parks and open ground here, and there's quite a lot of big gum trees, big eucalyptus trees, and they have a bit of flower. But normally this tree sustains a huge flock of rainbow lorikeets, like, yeah, about 500 rainbow lorikeets. And usually at this time, every afternoon in spring, this tree would have 500 rainbow lorikeets just playing and singing and feeding on these trees. And as you look, there's not one single rainbow lorikeet on this tree, because there's virtually no nectar left in those flowers. And basically within about 3 days of these flowers coming out, the flying foxes, the fruit bats, there's just so many in this area now, have come in and just sucked all those flowers dry. And that's really sad. And I've never seen a spring like this. This is a silent spring. And normally there'd be, you know, from first light even, there'd be huge flocks of lorikeets in the area, and there'd be, you know, 50 to 100 lorikeets on that tree all day long, from morning till afternoon. And then by late afternoon, a big flock comes in. That the whole tribe from this area, which would be, you know, up to 500 lorikeets, would be on this tree, and it'd be very noisy, be quite a racket. But you know, it's something I've always loved. It's just beautiful. I really love the rainbow lorikeets. They're a really beautiful bird, and I enjoy the racket they make too. Like I'm living on a very busy road here anyway, so I've got the option of listening to loud cars on the road or listening to these lorikeets, and I'd prefer the lorikeets any day, of course. But yeah, this has been going on. I've been watching for more than 2 weeks now, and this area is just silent, like no spring before, ever before. It's silent. The lorikeets are just, sometimes they'll fly past, but they're just not landing on the tree because there's no nectar left in those flowers. They've been sucked dry, and within a few days, like I've been here for 20 years. And 20 years ago there was a colony of about 1,000 rainbow lorikeets. But a few years into my being here, about 500 of them died. And I suspect people did that. That's my suspicion. I've heard them talking about a disease as well, or a virus. Maybe, you know, I can only guess, but I've got to guess because it was really noisy around here. And this tree in particular, it's spring, with 1,000 lorikeets in that tree. Oh my God, it was loud. But it was fantastic, if you ask me. It was just fantastic to watch those birds. But yeah, then after a few years, about half of them disappeared. And like I've taken a lot of interest in these birds, and they're very smart. I've found, like, there's times I've fed them, dry times when there was extreme circumstances, so I've fed and watered them, and they never forget. Like 5 years later they still remember that I've fed and watered them. So, you know, after that, what I think was a poisoning event, they were very suspicious of people. They didn't like people, and they, you know, I think they even pass it on to their babies. I really do, that suspicion of people. But anyway, yeah, there's been a colony of 500 lorikeets here, roughly. That's just my guess off the top of my head, and it's been here for 15 years in this area. And that tree in particular has been their major food source for at least a month every year. And this year, the flying foxes have pushed them away, pushed them out. And there's not many in this area. Like, I can hear them going to neighbouring trees and neighbouring gum trees, and oh, you know, at a guess there might be 100. It doesn't sound like that many, but there could be up to 100 birds sort of flying around like right now over, you know, an area of, oh, how big? You know, I guess could be 20 acres or so of around here. There's suburban houses and quite a bit of parkland. And I can hear birds from a fair way off. But yeah, there's not many. You should be able to hear them. The sound is pretty good on this camera. You can hear the lorikeets. But normally this tree, every single afternoon for at least a month, it would have 500 lorikeets. Just all playing and feeding on the trees, on the flowers, and making a hell of a racket. And yeah, like I said, all day long you'd be hearing lorikeets. I'll try and cut in, I've got a little bit of video of time gone by, where yeah, any time of the day you'd be seeing lorikeets here. Look at our lorikeets, these noisy birds, eating the nectar out of this beautiful native silky oak. They're called native Australian silky oak, or Grevillia Robusta. Beautiful tree. Truly beautiful big tree. these lorikeets have been shot at before, I think, because every time I stick my camera out, they disappear. I've just got to wait till I hear them in the tree, then shoot out, get a bit of film before they all fly off again. They're scared. Those rednecks have been shooting at them. You see my camera and they're very suspicious. And now this year there's absolutely nothing. And it's all because of the flying fox plague. There's just so many flying foxes in the suburbs now. And 20 years ago when I first came here, there would have been about 3 flying foxes. You know, the lorikeets would feed on this tree during the day and the flying foxes would come in at night. And then as the years went on, it sort of got more and more, and maybe 10 years ago there was 5 or 10 flying foxes at the most. You know, but this year, you know, when I first recognised this a couple of weeks ago, I stopped by and started counting the flying foxes at night, as soon as evening comes, and I counted there was more than 200 flying foxes just came in on that tree. So yeah, and that still, see, there was some lorikeets there, just flew straight by. I've not even seen one lorikeet land on that tree this year, but occasionally they'll fly by close, but they won't even land. But yeah, there's been 200 flying foxes. I'm not sure how many now. It'd be interesting to see. So I might try and get a bit of video for you at dusk today and see if we can see a few flying foxes landing on the tree. I noticed last night I saw there was still a fair few landing on the tree, but I never really counted them. But yeah, a few weeks ago, like only just a few days after all these flowers came out, I counted more than 200 flying foxes on that tree, and they have just sucked it dry. There's the flowers still look quite nice, but there's virtually no more pollen, no more nectar, left in those flowers. There's no more food left in that tree. And it's become a silent spring. The flying fox plague, for the first time in 20 years of my living here, the extreme numbers of flying foxes has pushed the rainbow lorikeet colony out of this area. And to me, I think that's really serious. And I don't know how many other people are going to notice this, but there's just too many damn flying foxes. And not only do they eat everybody's fruit, all the suburban gardeners and their fruit, you know, this flying fox plague that we have in Australia, because we protect our flying foxes, you know, we've already done the damage. Us as a collective whole, Australians, you know, not the average Australian of course, but we've wiped out millions of hectares of the flying fox's habitat, of their home. We've cleared millions of hectares of forest, and we just left the flying foxes. We killed all the animals in those forests, but the flying foxes managed to fly away. And now we're protecting the flying fox. We've destroyed their home, and we're protecting the flying fox, which we've already created the imbalance. We've already created the problem, and now we have just too many flying foxes, and they eat everybody's fruit in the suburbs. They've moved into the suburbs. They eat everybody's fruit, but not only that, they eat the fruit on all the commercial fruit farms. And they've made life very hard for all our commercial fruit farms and anyone with a backyard suburban garden. And yeah, we've protected these species, and now we're paying the price. And really, we caused the problem when we... Is that a flying fox? That might have nearly been one flying past just then. But, oh yeah, look, oh no, a crow, it's a crow. Oh well. Yeah, there's always been a few crows here. Which again is, you know, there's much more crows in the suburbs too now because of habitat destruction, because we've destroyed their home. But yeah, I know a lot of people won't like to hear this, especially animal lovers, but we really need to cull these flying foxes. There's just too many in Australia. And we've created an imbalance. We've already caused the problem. And I don't know, I guess you can say I'm sentimental for the rainbow lorikeets. I love them very much. And you know, I'm not all that as overwrapped about the flying foxes. You know, perhaps I'm a little bit biased. But I hope you can see that it is really sad that there was just such a huge colony of lorikeets thriving here, and now they're gone. They've had to move on. They've had to, they're you know, I'm sure they will tend to survive, but things could get tough for them. But they've got to find other flowering trees. And very few trees flower like this tree. I forgot to mention too, this tree is a Grevillia Robusta. It's in or the common name is Australian Native Silky Oak. And it is just a truly gorgeous tree. And yeah, the flowers and it produces, and like also this tree would support a huge bee colony. There'd be times of the day you could just hear millions, at least millions, I don't know, maybe even billions of bees feeding on those flowers. But not this year. Those bees have got to find another food source too. Because the flying foxes have just taken the lot. They took it within days. You know, because like a flying fox, the fruit bat, they're a big critter. And much bigger than a lorikeet. And you get more than 200 flying foxes hanging on that tree, you know, and they just sucked it dry in no time. So yeah, it's very sad. There's been a major change, and this is the first year this has happened. A major change in the ecology around here. And the rainbow lorikeets have had to move on and find a new food source. And now, like, the fun and games is over here at this place. This place was such a... Well, spring was just so nice to hear all those birds. It was just such a happy place to hear all those birds playing and singing and enjoying that tree. For more than a month, really. It'd go for a month and a half, 2 months. But for at least a month, that was just a solid food source for 500 lorikeets. And now, yeah, and that's what I mean. That's what I'm calling for. We need to cull those flying foxes. As sad as it is to say, and we've already caused the problem. We destroyed their habitat. Well, really, even more realistically, we need to like plant out millions of acres of forest to feed these flying foxes. That's the ideal situation. Or we need to cull them, because there's just too many, and they're taking over, and they're throwing the entire ecology out of balance. I guess at the rate it's going, the average person in this area will hardly even notice this happening, the lorikeets disappearing. Well, it's going to get more serious, but it may take quite a few years at the rate it's been going But eventually there could end up to being so many flying foxes here that's where I suspect we're going to be heading if we don't cull the flying foxes, is over the next 10 years. Perhaps that could be a maximum too, but depending on what happens in other areas, if we keep clearing, there could be new additions to the flying fox community here. But just at my guess, if the current flying fox community keeps breeding the way it is, in 10 years there's going to be so many flying foxes, they're going to start killing that tree. Because that's what happens in Australia now, is there's so many flying foxes, they end up infesting trees. I hope that motorbike didn't drown me out. The flying foxes end up infesting trees, and there can be so many they actually start killing the forest. Because there's just so many flying foxes and so few trees to support them. It's 2:20 now. If we don't start culling, which I think, it's going to be slow for people to catch on, there's going to be so many flying foxes, they're going to start killing trees like this. And whether this tree is still here even in 10 or 20 years, I suppose that's debatable too. As I certainly don't want to cut it down, but over the years, there's only 2 of these trees left in this yard. When I first came here there was 4. And 2 of them I've been forced to remove by neighbours because they had planted too close to the fence line, and their trunks just started protruding into the neighbours' yards. So then by law they could force me to cut it down. But these 2 trees, I'm sure there's a few neighbours that hate them. But for as long as I'm here anyway, I'd like to make sure these trees stay here. But my time could be nearly up. Even if, even if I keep living, I probably need to leave this area because it's just so polluted here. And it's killing my lungs. But yeah, a very beautiful tree. And normally a much nicer time this time of year, because that tree would just be covered in lorikeets. And this year there's just nothing. It's just gone. It's just gone. See, look at those flowers. Aren't they beautiful? But yeah, like I was saying, normally, like when all those flowers are full of nectar, they just shimmer. They shimmer, and it's an electric orange. But yep, there's absolutely nothing. Those flowers are spent. Normally it'd take a month or 2 before all those flowers would be spent, before the lorikeets have sucked all the pollen out, all the nectar. But those damn flying foxes this year, they got it all within about 3 days. They got the lot. Just so sad. So sad. Yeah, well, that's the story. I guess I've covered about everything. I was thinking maybe I should have even written that down. I would have done a better job to explain the story and just narrate it, write it first and then narrate it to you. But yeah, that's the story. A plague of flying foxes, fruit bats, have just taken over this area officially this spring. And this is probably going to be the beginning. No more rainbow lorikeets. The flying foxes have taken control of this area. And I would like to plant a lot more fruit trees here, but you know, it could end up being a bit futile. I've got a huge big ice cream bean tree here that's, oh, it's nearly as big as a house. It's 3 stories high, and I haven't got much fruit off that for a long time now, more than 10 years. The flying foxes get all that fruit. But I'm still getting other fruits. I've got to be quick. I get my papayas, but I've got to be fast with them or the flying fox will get it. But yeah, 200, I counted more than 200 flying foxes a couple of weeks ago. And yeah, I guess I'll switch off now and I'll try and get here on dusk and show you again the flying foxes flying in. But I don't think there'd be as many now because I just don't think there's much food up there. There's probably new flowers opening every day, but not many, I think, because the lorikeets just won't go near it. They just won't even land on that tree this year. Yeah, such a shame. Anyway, signing off. I'll sign off for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see if I can get you a bit of vision of the flying foxes. It might be hard because it'll be getting quite dark, but I'll see if I can just finish this video off with just a bit of vision of the flying foxes swarming in on this tree. Okay, thank you very much. Bye. Yeah, there's a couple up there. Not many though, but hopefully you'll see 1 or 2. There, see, just there? You'll see the silhouettes of them. Yeah, but the evening I counted them, it was about this time. It was a couple of weeks ago, it was about 3 days into the flowering. And I counted more than 200. But yeah, you can see they're flying in. I'd be surprised if there'd be 200 this time, because there just can't be much food left up there. Here's another one. See how many will we have now? I think we've maybe seen about 5 or more. 6. See, there's another one just flown in. Actually, it's settling on the other tree. The other tree was flowering a little later than the smaller one. There's another one there. Another one. See, here they come, look at them. Them buggers. More, look at them. More, look at this. See, it's unbelievable. Look how many could that be? I should have been counting. Oh, it must be 20 there now, yeah? 1, 2, 3. I'll start counting now. 4, 5. Just swarming in. Perhaps even the smell keeps the lorikeets away. The smell of the fruit bats sucking on every flower. There's the lorikeets, the rainbow lorikeets, have just got no interest in that tree this year. I've never seen anything like it in 20 years. No more now. There's another one. 4, what did I get to? 5. Oh, that one just went past even. Flew straight past the tree. Because down behind there's a park and there's a fair few gums and they get a bit of a flower at this time of year. But nothing like this Grevillia Robusta. And that one just flew by too. Oh, those two landed. Another one there landed, at least one I think. A little bit hard to see now, it's dark, isn't it? Yeah, I still think maybe I think most of them are still landing on that tree. There's at least one more that just flew straight past. The buggers, they're just flying rats, man. There's just too many. You know, I hate to say it, but you know, I'm all for, I'm an animal lover, I'm all for life. And man has thrown this out of balance. We've already made the mistake. We took their home away. We destroyed their habitat. And now we're paying the price. And I really think, for the sake of all the animals that live in this environment, the flying foxes need to be culled. They really do. We need a culling in Australia. Because there's just too many of the damn things. Certainly around here. Just too many of them. I hope you can see that. It's getting harder to see, isn't it? You can see the silhouettes of them flying onto that tree. I don't know how many would be there to guess. There might be 30 to 50. Although some of them are just flying off. Some are flying past. Look, there's another one just flew off to other trees. See that sound? That's the sound they make. Some are flying to different parts of the tree because it's just not as easy to find nectar, I guess. Yeah, there'd be at least 30 of them up there right now. Look, still coming in and landing on that tree. Yep, the flying foxes rule this area now. No more rainbow lorikeets. That's really sad, man. That's so sad. And you know, I assume that's how it's going to be every year now. Oh yeah, for 20 years spring was just so nice. It was just so alive with the laughter of rainbow lorikeets. See, and these things crap all over the place, and people are terrified of that crap because they apparently carry a really bad virus. You know, I don't know how serious that is, but there'll certainly be bacteria in their poops. But yeah, people, you know, they crap all over cars. And I've always been cautious of their crap. You know, I wouldn't touch it or anything. But yeah, just the very fact, we're so paranoid about this coronavirus at the moment, and these things, we had that Hendra virus scare, even though apparently only about 2 people have ever died of it. Ever, I think, something like that. If you look it up on Google. It's supposed to be a really serious virus, the Hendra virus, and also the Lister virus, that these things apparently carry, and yet we let them just thrive in the suburbs. It's like it's a war on our food. That's what it is, and the government has just, the way I see it, they've just brainwashed us all to love these creatures to a degree where it's just not healthy for the environment and not good for us. They eat all our food, they attack our fruit farms. We expect our fruit farms to net, which is incredibly expensive. It just keeps, stops most fruit farms from operating because they can't afford the netting. And then the multinationals import all their fruit. You can see that's always their plan, isn't it? They want to import our food from exploited third world countries. And those countries, they won't hesitate to kill fruit bats or anything that threatens their farms, threatens their food production. In the third world, they'll just kill them dead. And in Asia, they'd eat these bats. Apparently it's nice, sweet meat. But over here in Australia, we've got an obsession with protecting them. And protecting species is good, but there's just too many of these things. Anyway, that's just too dark now, isn't it? You can't see a thing. So yeah, thanks for your time, and thanks for listening to me. Listening to my little whinge about what's just suddenly happened to my area. And hope you found it interesting, and I'll see you next video. Thanks for watching Local Time. Bye for now.